Hi, this is the last video on water. It will focus mainly on water cycle. It's quite a short video lah. Okay, so let's first talk about sources of water. That means where we get our water from. Okay, we can get it from water bodies. Water bodies is any place that collect water. Okay, these are a few examples lah. It can either be man-made or natural. Okay, reservoir is man-made. Okay, plants also. How plants provide us water is through their roots. They will take in water from the soil through their roots, or if it's a water plant, then from wherever water bodies they are at. Then they will release this water they take in through their stomata from the leaf. Okay, animals as well. Okay, animals when they perspire, when they urinate, okay, or when they breathe out. Okay, when we breathe out, for example, we breathe out water vapor as well. So all of them provide us with a source of water, sometimes in the form of water vapor. Before I talk about water cycle, you need to know that hot air will rise and then cool air will sink. That's a property of air, and that's why hot air balloon, although it's very heavy, can still rise up. Okay, so in water cycle, there's a few things that you need to take note of. Okay, mainly in primary school, you need to focus on these three lah. Precipitation for now we will not call it precipitation, we just call it rain lah. Okay, precipitation is not tested. At least the word is not tested in primary school. Okay, so these are the three main process in the water cycle: evaporation, condensation, and then rainfall. Okay, I'll just briefly explain everything, including the one that will not be tested. So evaporation is when your seawater, it gains heat and then rise to become water vapor, and then water vapor condense to become clouds, okay, in the form of liquid. And then after that, because of the weight of the clouds, the water droplets come down on land due to gravity, and then that's when you have rain. Okay, then when it enters the soil, it's called infiltration, and then when it's collected in water bodies, it's called accumulation. Okay, then transpiration is when the plants take out water from the soil and release through the stomata. Okay, but like I said, not tested, not tested, not tested. The word is not tested, but you should know what is actually happening lah. Okay, so this is just a brief overview. Okay, now I'll go in depth. Okay, now let's have a detailed look on what is actually happening. So this is your water bodies. Okay, so in water bodies, right, like your ocean, your river, it is liquid water. So all these are in liquid state. Okay, likewise, like I say, your plants, they will release water from the stomata, okay, which they take in through the roots, okay, from the soil. So you have mainly two lah. Of course, like I told you, animals when they perspire or when they urinate or when we breathe out, okay, will also release water vapor. So all this water vapor, okay, they'll rise up. For the liquid, right, because of evaporation, because they gain heat, right, like for example the sea water, they gain heat, right, they'll turn into, from liquid, they'll all turn into gas lah. But here it's already gas usually. Okay, for animals, if it's perspiration or urination, then it's liquid first, then into gas. Okay, but if you breathe out, it's also gas so it can be liquid or gas for animals. But for plants, it's water vapor through the stomata, so it's already gas. So all these gas, okay, eventually they are all water vapor lah. Okay, regardless it's liquid state at first, they all become gas at the end in the form of water vapor. Then as I was telling you, hot air rises, right? So water vapor is warm, so it will rise up. Okay, when it rises up, because the sky, okay, is cool, so when it reaches the sky, the water vapor will lose heat. And if you remember, or by right you must remember by now, when water vapor lose heat, they will condense. When they condense, they become liquid, and that is what you call your cloud. So your cloud is essentially a floating liquid. Okay, so these clouds, they are very heavy, right? When they become more heavy, they will rain down. Of course, clouds will move lah, so they don't stay in one location because of wind. So when this rainfall comes down on earth, it either goes into the water bodies or it enters the soil. Then the plants once again take out the water in the soil through the roots and then release through the stomata. So this thing just keep going on and on. So that's why we call it water cycle. Okay, so that's a detailed overlook lah. Okay, one of the key things that students always forget is that cloud is liquid. So remember that cloud is actually liquid. That's why we can see it. If it's water vapor or if it's gas, we cannot see it already. So therefore cloud is a liquid. Okay, the other thing is students must always remember, okay, there's a change of state only here. So evaporation and condensation. Okay, when it becomes rainfall, right, cloud is liquid what? So when it becomes rainfall, it's liquid to liquid. So from clouds to rain, there's no change in state. Okay, it is from liquid to liquid, so the state stays the same. Okay, now let's look at why water cycle is important. Basically all living things need water lah. So water cycles ensure that there's a continuous supply of water. So that's why it is very important, and it is one of the main reasons why there are still living things on earth. Okay, so like I said, you constantly make sure that there's a supply of water, and this water is distributed. Okay, because the earth is very big. Okay, it's quite impossible for us to distribute water manually, especially to forests. So the water cycle is doing this job lah. Okay, and it also makes sure that dirt and salt is removed from water. So when water evaporate and turn into water vapor, right, they leave behind the salt in seawater, they leave behind the dirt, okay, that's found in the soil. Okay, second reason is because, like I say, it helps distribute water. A natural gardener, meaning for example, some forests, right, like for example Amazon forest is a few times bigger than a lot of countries. So it is so big, it's impossible for human being to go in and water every single part of the forest. So that's why we have a water cycle that does that. Okay, it's like a gardener, it helps us water the forest. Okay, and it prevents drought lah. So if a certain area don't have water for too long, there will be drought, right? So water cycles prevent that. Okay, it cools out the environment because in water cycle, one of the key part is evaporation, right? So when water evaporate, they gain heat. So when they gain heat, the environment loses heat. So it helps keep the environment cool. Okay, if we retrieve water from the soil, whenever water rains down, it enters the soil, right? It won't stay on the surface of the soil. It enter in the soil. Okay, so plants which is involved heavily in the water cycle, the plants will take in water from the soil, so the water that's stuck under the soil can get taken up and then up the stem and then released through the stomata. Okay, without the plants, of course, the water will be stuck under the soil and won't be able to be removed. So if this continues, then there will be more and more water stuck in the soil. That's why water cycles prevent that from happening. Okay, let's look at the mini water cycle. This is a terrarium. I don't know if you heard it before. A terrarium is basically like like an aquarium, but instead of fish, you have plants lah. So a terrarium is a self-sufficient one. That's why you can close it. It's not like your aquarium. You have to feed the fish, you have to change water and whatnot. A terrarium, once you create it, right, most of the time it can stay alive, provided you put it under a place with direct sunlight. So a terrarium is like a mini earth lah. So you can think of it as a small earth. Also what happens is, of course, there's water inside the soil. Okay, then the plants inside, real plant, must be real plant, will take up water in the soil through the roots and release through the leaf. Then there'll be water vapor going up, right, and you'll rise up. Then after that, it comes in contact with the surface of the bottle, you condense to become water droplets. So these water droplets is like your clouds on earth lah. Then you drip back, right, so it's like rain. Then you enter the soil. Then once again, the plants will take out the water from the soil and release through the stomata, and this thing just go on and on. So that's why a terrarium can survive on their own. It has its own water supply. Plants also don't need to feed, so they just have to have light to make food. So it's like a mini earth lah. Also, that's how a terrarium works and survive on their own. This is the one on the right side is also a man-made one, okay, a mini water cycle. So what happens is you have water, right? So same thing, the water evaporate here. Okay, rise up. Okay, because hot air rises ma. So this plastic cover, you come into contact with the plastic cover and then you lose heat and condense. Usually the plastic cover must be bent. Okay, because the water droplets must drip to the middle and drip in. Okay, so that's how this diagram works. Okay, now this is also quite interesting question I come across a few times already. usually they'll ask quite simple questions for this, but I also come across quite difficult ones. But I'll just briefly tell you what's happening. So there's heat here, right? So the water inside will, which is in liquid state, will gain heat and evaporate. So it becomes water vapor. The water vapor comes into contact with the cooler surface, it condenses to become water droplets, and then because it's slanted, right, so it slide and then drop inwards. Okay, so that's a simple way as well. Okay, there's a ice here. Why? Because you want to keep this thing cool, because when this plate that the person is holding, when it's cold, the water vapor will lose heat faster and condense faster. When it condenses faster, there'll be more water droplets and then more water can be collected. Okay, there's one time I come across a question that was quite interesting. They asked the students why is it that after some time there's lesser water collected. Okay, so I mean, let's say for example, if there's no ice here, okay, so originally there will still be water collected, but after some time, because the warm water vapor keeps coming into contact with the plate, right, so this plate will gain heat and then it become hot. So when it become hot, the water vapor is also hot, right, so it does not lose much heat. So when it doesn't lose much heat, okay, it loses less heat lah. Basically the water vapor lose less heat. Okay, when it loses less heat, that means slower condensation. When there's slower condensation, that means there's lesser water droplets form and therefore lesser water collected. Okay, that's one interesting question I came across before. Now, so if let's say I have a setup like this, okay, so same thing lah. The water by right should rise up, okay, and then I mean the water vapor should rise up and then turn into water droplets and then drip inwards, right? Okay, so if I want to collect more water in a same period of time, that means I want the whole process to be faster. How can I do that? Okay, I can increase the heat. Okay, let me just erase this. Okay, so just now was 30 degrees Celsius, so now it's 90 degrees Celsius. Okay, I mean you can also heat up from the bottom lah, or you can use hotter water. So we learned it on the last video. When the temperature is higher, evaporation is faster. So when the evaporation is faster, there will be more water vapor. When there's more water vapor, there will be more water droplets form during condensation, and then more water droplets will be collected lah. So that's one way to increase the rate of collection of water. Okay, now let's go back to 30 degrees. This is the original setup, right? So the other way, okay, if I don't want to change the temperature of the water, what can I do? You can also lower the temperature of the plastic cover. How do I do that? So instead of putting a plastic cover, I can put ice. Okay, so now here will be cold, right? So when it's cold, the water vapor will lose heat faster. When they lose heat faster, they'll condense faster. Okay, when they condense faster, they'll turn into water droplets faster. Then again, okay, more water will be collected. Okay, then what if you don't want to increase the heat? You also don't want to lower the temperature of the plastic cover. Okay, you can also increase the exposed surface area, because during the last video you should know that there are 4 factors that affect the rate of evaporation, right? Namely your temperature, your exposed surface area, your humidity, and your wind. So now we talk about exposed surface area. So originally your surface area is very little one, or at least this part is the exposed surface area. But now you increase the surface area. So how do you increase? You make the cup smaller lor. So just now the cup was quite big, right? Now that the cup is smaller, your exposed surface area is bigger. So when your exposed surface area is bigger, okay, more water will be evaporating, and likewise more condensation, more water collected. Now let's talk about how Singapore obtain fresh water. Okay, there are actually 4 main ways. The first one is desalination. What is desalination? Desalination is when, like the word suggests, desalt. Okay, desalt. That means you remove salt. Okay, so I'll just draw a simple diagram. So you basically have some seawater. Seawater is basically salt water. That's why if you accidentally go to sea and you taste the seawater, you realize it's very salty. Okay, so we know that salt don't evaporate, right? So the salt will stay behind, and then only the water evaporate into water vapor. Okay, then after that they will condense. Okay, on the surface, on your tube or whatever, into water droplets, and then they are collected as fresh water. Okay, no longer salt water. Okay, that's one way. uh, Before I talk about the next one, so actually this is quite uh, a method that's been discovered quite long, but it is not popular because it's very expensive. And the reason why it's very expensive is because to do this you need a lot of land, and secondly because you need to boil the water, and if you want to boil the water, usually you use fossil fuels, which is expensive. Oh, so it's actually not a very commonly used method lah among many countries. Although it's a very it's a known method for very long already, mainly because it's very expensive. Second method is we buy from Malaysia lah. Okay, in Singapore we don't have a lot of land to collect water, so we have to buy water from other countries, which is like for example Malaysia, because they're a very big country, they have a lot of land, so they can afford to collect have land to collect water. Okay, the third one is we build our own reservoir, but we cannot have a lot of reservoir in Singapore because, like I say, we are a very small country. We cannot sacrifice a lot of our land for collecting water. So our reservoir actually is not sufficient for all of us. Okay, the last method is by recycling our water. This is right now one of the main way we get fresh water lah. More than half of our water comes from new water. Uh, you may not be comfortable to know this, but actually it's very clean because we have one of the cleanest water in the world. But the inconvenient truth is that recycled water actually comes from all the water that you use in Singapore, including the water you use to brush your teeth, after you wash your hands, the toilet bowl water, all kinds of water, they get recycled and then you turn it back into fresh new water. Okay, but actually, although it doesn't sound very comfortable, but we have one of the cleanest water in the world, so it should be of no worries lah. Okay. Okay, then let's now talk about water pollution. Okay, you should already know that although 70% of Earth is water, but like I told you, less than only about 1% is fresh water. Yet it is running lesser and lesser now because of water pollution. Water pollution is basically uh, making our water dirty lah. Okay, these are the few main reasons why water is being polluted. Okay, the first one being oil spill. Okay, oil spill meaning the oils enter the water sources. So commonly, for example, your seawater. Okay, usually we transport uh, oil from one country to another country using big boats called oil tanker lah. So sometimes this oil tanker will capsize or they'll leak, or even sometimes aeroplane or uh, factories they'll throw purposely or not purposely oil into the sea. So that's oil spill. So when that happens, the oil is polluted, sorry, the sea water is the sea is polluted, the water is polluted, and then any living organism, for example fishes or birds that rely on the water will either indirectly or directly comes into contact with the oil by either consuming it or consuming another organism that feed on it, so they will also be poisoned lah. Okay, so plants for themselves, they are, because oil floats on water, right? So um, the oil will block the water, sorry, the sunlight. So when the oil blocks the sunlight, the plants in the water cannot make food lah. Where the other one is littering. Okay, it can be because we go to the beach and then we litter, or sometimes civilizations or communities live near water sources, like for example river, so they dump waste into the river. Okay, so that's one way of littering. Okay, untreated waste. Okay, it can either be man-made, for example our waste, because in some countries their sanitization, meaning their toilet is not very well developed, so they have to do it in rivers, in places that has water lah, and then all this untreated waste goes into the river. Or it can be because of factories, they have chemicals or waste that they don't want, without processing it they dump the whole thing into the water bodies. Okay, the next one is acid rain. Acid rain is mainly caused by chemicals that's released into the air. So now the air mixed with the uh, rainwater and it comes down as acid rain. Okay, it can be harmful to human health, it can be harmful to even buildings as well. Okay, so acid rain is another way of water pollution, because the acid rain comes down, it goes into the water bodies. Okay, the last one is deforestation. Okay, deforestation, like the word deforest suggests, is to remove forest. When you remove forest, you basically remove trees. When you remove trees, there's no more roots to take up water from the soil. Okay, that's one problem. Second problem is that when there's no roots holding on to the soil that contains dirt or waste can go into the water bodies, because there's no more roots holding on to the soil. Okay, now, so how do we make sure that we cherish our water? How do we make sure that we use it wisely? Okay, in this order, reduce, reuse, recycle. You all should be very familiar with these words. Okay, firstly is to use as little as possible. So instead of taking a long shower, maybe you can take a quick bath. Okay, reusing, that means for example the uh, water you use to wash your rice, for example, you can use this water to flower your plants, so you reuse the water lah. Okay, recycle is usually using technology lah, like for example NEWater. Okay, but always reduce first, followed by reuse, then you recycle. Okay, that's all for today. If you can, please share this video with your friends. Thank you.